You know, we all have our demons inside ourselves that we have to fight, okay? Day in, day out. But sometimes they materialize in the craziest of ways. And today, DeMuslims is materializing in an Age of Empires 4 match as we have got Rus versus the Mongols. It is going to be DeMuslim up against DeMuslim's Triple Chin the Feek. Now, I believe that is meant to be Finnish for his triple chin, because he is up against a Finn. This troll on the ladders right now, I actually love it. Game to game, he's been changing it. So before he was up against BC, I believe he went with BCQT's pet little monkey or something along those lines. It's actually Fuzzer. So Fuzzer is just going around in these matches. For those who don't know who Fuzzer is, he's a pretty high-ranked Finnish player. Really hopped on the train of Age of Empires 4. I just love this, though. It's just a little bit of banter. It seems every time he cues into a notable name, he just changes his name to just kind of drill up the player a little bit. So, yeah, we get to see that here happening to DeMuslim. And as we say, he's going to play on the Roost. He does go for the standard opener, right, where you just go Hunt Cabin in conjunction with Lumber Camp, and then the house comes out just in synchronicity. So they, like, join together to build that up, and then you start getting your scouts out. Now, the curious part is, has the mimicker of DeMuslim, has he gone for his own scouts? It looks like he has, yes. So he actually built this super early stable, and this is one of the cool things that you can do as the Mongols, right? Like, he's not an Uvu, but that doesn't matter, because later on he can, of course, just pack this up and move it across the Uvu. But I really love that he's doing this. A lot more players are doing this when they get in these type of Civ matchups. Like, even if it's not against Rus, it can potentially be worth, if you can, especially for Mongols, for example, getting your hands on a second scout so you gather more sheep and you keep the vision, etc., right? So really heads up from him. DeMuslim just having the advantage, right? Because he's got his calm plus these two scouts now, and I believe they're now matched up. So yeah, so Fuzzer is going to get the majority of the sheep in this area. And it looks like he moved across to his opponent's side first. Remember that DeMuslim would have slowed down to hunt these deer, right? And he's not going to find anything in terms of value, right? Because although he got his own deer, he won't get any from his opponent. And instead, now Fuzz has just managed to... I keep wanting to call him DeMuslim's Triple Chin. All right, Triple Chin here basically got the better side of it. I wish we had like a sheep counter. A sheep counter would be amazing in this situation. Vision-wise as well, just... better going so far by Triple Chin, courtesy not stopping off to, you know, screw around with the hunter side too often. I feel like these were fairly direct for Triple Chin to find. In terms of, like, this one would have been obvious very, very quickly, and you would have easily seen this one in passing. Whereas I guess I could say from DeMuslim's perspective, this one's a little bit further out there, so he may be hunted for this one a little bit longer. But yeah, it just seems like overall it was more to do with the stable going up first, right? Because the difference here, when you think about the way that you construct this opening is for the Roost player, like, he's going to start hunting cabin, he's going to have his house, and then he's going to, like, shift across the lumber camp. And the hunting cabins could take a while to build. You see the 40 seconds, right? Compare that over here, where the stables are 30 seconds, and you'll instantly build them. You won't be worrying about building anything else because, you know, you've got a mobile drop-off station, the TC, which you can see he redirected towards that wood line. So cool little matchup to consider in future, guys. When you're actually playing as a Mongol against a Rus player, realize that you can actually get into the scouts quicker and realize that you can actually snatch away some critical resources on the map, because while you're investing the 60 food, right, what you're actually gaining out of that is you're stripping away 70 gold from your opponent for each one of these you hunt down. Not to mention the scaling of their economy, because they want to kill these off, not just because of the initial gold, but because of the bounty system, which... when we look here, he did get to 325 in the end. I believe this was mainly wolf hunting, though, so really well done by DeMuslim. And look at the harassment straight in. So scout line goes onto the gold line and will force them off. I don't think he'll be able to get the kill here because these scouts, of course, do have ridiculously slow attacks, but just preventing his opponent from gathering gold. Really important as well, because look at Triple Chin's... God's sake. Look at Triple Chin's gold right now, 189, right? So if you could keep him off there longer, that would have been perfect. It should buy enough time to even things up. Because look, he was already going for the golden gate. Meanwhile, Triple Chin actually isn't even ready to tech up yet. He was waiting on this gold because he had enough food. So finally get enough. But he's no doubt going to feel like he's behind when he sees that the tech up's going to be there at 5 minutes from DeMuslim. So really cool opening. Really like that move. It's really deceptive as well, because even when you feel like you've shut down your opponent, right, and you've got rid of, you know, 2 of these deer stacks, you don't know where the wolves are. The wolves are so hard to keep an eye out for. You have to keep cycling your scouts all the time and looking around. And I think when you're not the Roost player, that's a bad habit. Like, it's a habit that's hard to get into, right? But you absolutely have to. Really nice snipe there, by the way. It looks like they got rid of one of these sheep. Kind of a cool thing that Khan can do. So snatches a little bit of eco away from DeMuslim. But definitely the Roost player in advantage position right now. And I believe the tech up has begun. And it looks like Triple Chin is going into the trade. Wow. Okay, so Silver Tree is a peculiar choice. On this map, I can kind of see the alluring aspect of it, right? Like, you've got 2 choke points. If you carry outposts around these areas, you'll be able to maintain some iota of control. I think, like, the 2 maps that I would say I can kind of get behind going the trade route as Mongols occasionally on. The ones that come to mind are probably Boulder Bay, I think, is the most obvious one. And I could kind of see French Pass to an extent, but I'd say there's possibly a better one in Nagari. I think Nagari is probably even better because those choke points are so tiny, right? But they are further out. I think they're more stretched. And I think it's more to do with the... I'm trying to think, actually, does Nagari have a marketplace? It must have a marketplace. I just... It feels like a dumb question, but I don't think I've once seen players play towards trade in Nagari, so... But yeah, French Pass, I kind of get it. I think it's like the second place one on the list of 2 that I'd say are acceptable. But it does mean that you're sacrificing that Yam speed buff, right? Which is huge. It's ridiculous, actually. It allows you to run down so many types of units with infantry even, right? So this does give DeMuslim a lot more flexibility on how he opens now and where he kind of progresses, right? Because when he goes into the base, when he goes on the aggressive, he's going to be able to actually cycle in pretty effectively. And these village lines especially going to be exposed. Because remember, they benefit a lot from that extra movement speed just to back off from the incoming harassment of, say, early night spam. Which we'll have to see if he goes for. So far, DeMuslim has gone for the professional scouts and is already starting to just yoink all the corpses. Meanwhile, his opponent probably hasn't. Okay, no. So there you go. That's kind of the awkward part, right? Is I think when it comes to the Mongols, even if you want to, like, maybe there's something more attractive here. Maybe he wants to get the wood income up, right? You have this tough choice to make when you're opening because you can't go for as many different economy type, researches, right? When you think about what DeMuslim's able to do, where if he wanted to, not saying he is, he could go for the specialized pick, he could go for the double broad axe, and he could still go for the Hun and the professional scouts, right? Because they're in different buildings compared to the Gers, which, yes, I know you can build multiple Gers, but you don't tend to early on because they're very pricey at 100 wood. I have to wonder if some of those researches are going to get altered slightly, by the way. It does feel like people always avoid going for the wood gathering and the gold gathering upgrades or gold and stone, right? I feel like I rarely ever see this. I think I'm trying to remember. Someone had like a good graph, like to give you the averages, given your regular kind of expectations of 4 or 5 people on a vein, how long it would take for them to repay that value of that extra gathering rate. And I think it's like on average, given like the averages at the stages when you're getting specialized picks and then the tier 2 ones, it's probably like 8 to 10 minutes payoff afterwards on average. I think I can't find the sheets. It was a while ago. Someone gave some rough figures though, and obviously that depends on like how many people you're putting on gold, how many people you're putting on wood. But like if you having the averages in your mind of like as you scale your economy as the minutes pass, and you have say a 30% average in that resource, then the numbers suggested it's close to like 10 minutes at the high peak to repay the value of the first 2 techs. The third tech is just bonkers expensive. Anyway, as I've been waffling on about this, DeMuslim has been busy scurrying all of his gold and his food into the bank so he can tech up. And you can see that he is going to be quick into this high trade, but he's not going to be alone in the teching up. He only just began it, but Triple Chin is going into the step readout. Now, in this situation, I do favor what I'm seeing out of Triple here. So we've actually seen a lot of switch up from Roos, I feel like, in the last week or 2. When the game first came out, everyone thought the idea of High Trade House was OP as hell, right? Because, I mean, it spawns deer, so you can get all your bounties unlocked. It generates that extra 200%, so you can get 81 a minute. Overall, it seemed like a crazy, bonkers good building. But then a lot of people realized getting access to the Abbey as a tech up, which then also saved you 200 wood, and allowed you to immediately start spamming out warrior monks, was pretty valuable in 1v1s, considering how quickly it would allow you to just yoink these relics across the map, usually allowing you to get free maybe 4 of them. And considering when you're often up against these civs that don't actually tend to build into temples, this is very tier-top choice, right? So from DeMuslim's perspective, he feels probably like he can get away with a high trade house because he can still build a temple and he can still go collect these, and he'll still be pretty fast and probably get the majority. And that's at least the majority if his opponent even bothers to go into temples. If his opponent doesn't, then he can quickly just yoink all 5 of these relics, and you'll be gathering an extra 500 gold a minute. So it's an interesting fort. I definitely think when you're up against HRE is the perfect example. You 100% should be going for the Abbey. But I think there's definitely a flex option towards High Trade House that we haven't seen as frequently out of these high-level players at the moment. I don't think he necessarily needs it for the bounties, right? I think, did he have any sheep left? Okay, maybe he did then. So he definitely needed to get the tier 3 bounty because he can still hunt the boars, guys. That's something to highlight that good Roost players will do very quickly in the game, is they'll use like, I don't know, a scout and then a knight, or just a scout and then all these archers, and they'll go and harass these boars, and they're worth 75 gold each, which means, you know, in one more deer, he'll be able to crack his tier 3 if he goes after both of the boar. Which is important when you consider you get an extra 5% gather rate, and your hunting cabins generate even quicker, including the big boy one, the High Trade House you built. So Triple Chin does spot out what's happening. He probably had a kind of inkling that there were going to be horse archers coming his way. It's exactly that. And the Magadai feel rough against this, right? You have to remember that while the Magadai can move and shoot, they're 3.5 tiles. Compare that to the horse archers here at 4.5. So they don't actually have the advantage. And that's a concern of the situation. So he's probably going to have to pivot out of this. I would expect Lancers to start being produced now. And it's actually Horsemen. Actually, you know, in fairness, Horsemen is better here. I was going to say Lancers aren't bad for if you want to lend pushing his base, but definitely Horsemen are good. We've seen them being used by HRE up against Roost, right? When we saw Matisse versus Scuzz. It's just super effective because you gap close. You also get the bonus damage because you are attacking a non-melee unit, and that's how it's like conduced. And I love this move by DeMuslims just to get the most value out of professional scouts. So he's not trying to pressure hard. He knows his opponent is probably countering him because he got that early scouting with the Khan. So there's no point pushing in too early with this army. Just use them as kind of this pivot point to get more eco. And I believe there's not really been any utilization of Corpse as a tool out of Triple Chin, which is really surprising to me. Considering he has these, he's built this go here next to the berry bushes, why not just go straight in for the deer? It's a quicker gather rate, so it's definitely valuable. And when you actually think about it, there's more in this deer field in terms of like eco than there is in these berry bushes. And moving in now. Horse archers arrive from DeMuslim, and he will see he's counted out by the Veteran Horseman. And look at this, the movement speed on these lads will be quick. 2.87 tiles per second means that he's going to skew straight through the horse archer line. Tries to wrap around the side, but doesn't really need to. 1 or 2 pokes in the Tushki is enough to bring down these horse archers. And DeMuslim, this whole army is probably going to be spent from him. He's not really going to do any casualties towards Triple Chin's line either. So barely any horse archers left. He'll keep the pressure going. Magadai in the mix as well, just to ensure that every time they turn around, there's definitely that extra little bit of fire that can usually kill them off. And although you got 1 or 2 of these horsemen, the reality is that this was definitely a valuable trade for Triple Chin. He'll still find value in the horsemen as the game goes on. Because remember, them being the fastest unit in the game means they can actually, to a certain degree, dictate and choose when they fight and where they fight. That's something I love about horsemen. I do think horsemen, when the game first came out, were an incredibly underrated unit. I think everyone thought they were poo-poo and were not worth the time. But I do expect horsemen in one of the next 2 patches to get nerfed. I think they're a little bit too strong right now. It might be that they get nerfed directly, or it might just be that they go double down on like the buffing of the spears and the crossbows and whatnot. My only issue is like crossbowmen aren't terrible against horsemen. They're not great either. I think like horsemen, like they're going to address knights because crossbowmen will be included, not just spears. But then for horsemen, it's definitely just going to be spears. And while it's a good economical trade, I think the difference you have to consider is these guys are even faster than knights. Like they are zoomers, right? Speedy Gonzalez straight across into your base, and he's going to be here in just a few seconds. And there is a new horse archer line. I just don't like this move from DeMuslim. He needs something more. He has got a few scouts here. But I would rather just see him pivot into some horsemen as well. Or maybe go for the knights. And he's now starting to build the stables, so he understands this. Has gone for the second TC, by the way. Someone who just highlighted that his opponent hasn't done at all. So 1 TC versus 2 now. And if you look at it, Triple Chin, 66 eco, 55 into Muslim. But remember, that's because these caravans, they actually count as eco as well, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure it's always been that way. I always like get paranoid that I'm definite they are. Yeah, you can see. So 19 of his eco count is actually just traders. The reason this is important is because they can become more vulnerable, right? They're not as protected next to like a TC or deep in your eco line. So if the Muslim gets aggressive, he could snipe these out. And look at the move. Look at the move across map. So he's going straight up the center, looking to wrap around and catch out the trade post, right? Because he knows his opponent isn't trading to the south. If he was, he would have spotted it when he was last down here and lost that Horse Archer army. So really good heads-up play. The only problem he's going to have is right now, Triple Chin, he's getting the outpost down, so we'll have early information on this. Problem is, do you like hard commit if you're DeMuslim? I feel like you kind of have to. You need to do some eco damage right now. Because I feel like otherwise you're just building this Horse Archer army that's inherently countered directly, right? And the crazy part is if you keep trading like this, eventually it's going to be more favorable for Triple Chin, because while he's spending a lot of food on this, he's saving up so much gold, right? You know, he's got the step readout, he's got all this trade coming in. He's going to be able to force a transition to Lancers, and he's going to be more economically stable to do so. Outpost sniped out. Deeper outpost. No, nothing like that. Just scouts. And it looks like DeMuslim is going into trade. Now, I did say that this is one of the two maps where it feels good, right? Like the main ones that come to mind that I often see are Boulder Bay and French Pass. But I wasn't wholly expecting the Roost player to engage with it. So he's getting 67 gold out of this. It's less valuable, remember, because although it's only 41 gold for his opponent, his are moving quicker due to the AM speed. So it kind of evens out to be better for the Mongol player still. And if you look at the income, just look at the crazy difference. Triple Chin having double the gold income right now is something that DeMuslim needs to address. And he's going to try and engage now, but the horseman count, holy moly. Oh, God. I think he's going to lose this army. The movement speed. Triple Chin, also known as Fuzzer, just opens up and says, "Welcome to Plowtown, DeMuslim." DeMuslim's like, "What's going on right now?" He says, "I'm your Triple Chin. I've been waiting to talk to you." I say that. The Horseman got split up a little here, so he's going to have to retreat them away. A little bit of a miss micro by the looks of it. So Fuzzer ends up losing more Horsemen than maybe he should have. I think he's still got a decent trade out of that. A decent chunk of the Horse Archers are gone, but more damage done to the Horsemen than maybe there should have been. And as you back up in this situation, DeMuslim, now while he can reinforce, he can slow it down a bit to the point that he can start to scale if he wants. He can start thinking about an in-page situation, whereas now, feels like he's going to have to like double down, right? He's going to have to replace these units. He's going to have to get a few more, composition elements to his army. It means he's probably going to hang around longer. I think the issue he has right now is you can see he's food capped, right? His gold is great, but his food is a problem. And when you look at the income per minute, it definitely supports that notion. And he's running out of things to farm right now. In fact, yeah, that's the... Oh, my God. I was about to say, surely he started to switch, but he hasn't. He hasn't started to switch over to a sheep economy yet. So there you go. Pastures go down now, but this is pretty late. And that's why... Oh, my God. All right, someone is trying to open a kebab store here. So he's building 7 pastures right now. So this isn't an overreaction, by the way. This is how weak his food eco is about to be, as he's just spending all the deer here, and there's only one berry bush left here, right? So this is a required action by him. Like, he could expand to further berry bushes, but remember, it's less beneficial to gather from. It's also, it would mean you're expanding further out from safety, right? Like, could you imagine? You know you're already probably going to be, there's going to be raid attempts here to take out your traders, right? Do you really want to station your villagers counts here as well? Do you want to give them that double whammy value if he ever strikes in there? No. So just engage with the pastures, stroke the pastures, sing songs to the pastures, and they will return the delicious kebabs to you. Hasn't waypointed them either, which is very sadness. Of course, remember, guys, to waypoint. Yeah, there you go. He's done it now. So the next ones will move towards the TC, so it'll be quicker drop-off. And this means that he's centralizing his economy, so it's less vulnerable. The problem he's going to have is his wood line's going to be exposed soon, right? Because he almost ran out of wood here, so he's going to have to move it somewhere else, probably to the south side, which he is going to have some protection over, right? Because he's moved the silver tree down here, and he started to build outposts. So in fairness, that would be the safe play to move to this tree line. There isn't another one to move to over here. There's just a few crappy trees you don't really want to engage with. The really interesting part is going to be see who tries to move towards the center. Because when you ever play French Pass and you start to get past that 20-minute mark, it does become an important detail. Who is actually going to be able to strike in there? Who's going to be able to get these gold veins? Because when we look at this, guys, it's a ridiculous amount, right? It's 24, 32. It's 40,000 gold here. 40,000 gold in the center. That's a lot of moolah to be given up. In fairness, it doesn't matter as much as it normally would because they both engaged with trade. So So archers and the knight switch. We didn't even spot this from DeMuslim, and his opponent hasn't actually reacted correctly. I think the squirrels aren't bad, but I don't think they're the best solution in the world. So the horsemen going to charge out. I don't know if there's enough knights here for DeMuslim to feel comfortable, which is why he's going to back up. Yeah, only 5 of them would be overwhelmed, even by even with their advantage in combat against the horsemen. It's actually the squirrels that make the difference. So good idea to back up from DeMuslim. Just gets rid of the scouting vision, and more importantly, now he can just continue to scale this army. Seeing his opponent's going for Springolds, which isn't a bad solution, but he needs to switch over. And the problem is that Triple Chin is not making that switch over. He's continued to double down on the horsemen. Really surprising move. Now, if he can get up to Imp Age, I will say that what we've seen time and time again is those elite horsemen are actually brutal. Like, they're incredibly tanky. They actually dish out decent melee, despite the fact that they're not meant to be good in melee. I think that's kind of one of the wacky details, right? It's for a unit that I believe is even labeled as crappy in melee. Yeah, weak versus melee units. When you actually get it into the Imp Age, and it goes up to, I think it's 14 or 15 damage, it holds pretty well. When you compare to, like, man-arms, like, yeah, it hasn't got as much armor as those units, but considering how big its health pool is, it kind of makes up for the difference. And moving around. So DeMuslim just keeping Triple Chin on his toes. He's going to have to run all the way across here, which means the Springles will be late to the combat. And he will move deeper as the Knights try and burn down these outposts. Just scouting out what is coming. Not that it shouldn't be obvious that you're going to be assaulted by more horsemen. Oh, if he moves south. If he actually moves south right now. Because it's all exposed. Wait, did he... It looked like he didn't drop off. That looked a bit buggy. They were standing out here, right? And they had bags, and then like it's almost like he redirected them. That was a bit of a weird interaction. So Ubu's going to be spent. And by spent, I mean burnt down, not it's done getting stuff. Charge in. Horseman line. Spreads across them here. DeMuslim is losing a lot of these archers quickly right now. Trying to back up. Still has 9 of his knights. He should really just turn around the knights to engage and then back up the horsemen. But remember, like these are expensive units if you do leave the knights behind to die. At this rate, you might be forced to. Look at the horsemen. The way they just surround and plow them down. That being said, these trades are working out okay for DeMuslim because remember, as you pull him further away and the chase continues, the speed buff is going to run out, and then the knight line can kind of hold while the horse archers can continue to back up. And you can see that right now. The knight line is holding at the moment. There is definitely the Zerg factor in Triple Chin's favor here. The question is whether DeMuslim can keep production up right now because he needs to get more knights out. He needs to do it quickly. Keeps retreating. Still got that movement speed. Zoom, zoom. As they are ridiculous at 2.16 tiles. And the knight count now down to 6 here. If we look at DeMuslim, he has still got 24 horsemen, but a lot of them are heavily injured. So if DeMuslim could find out the right targets, then Triple Chin's army will start to melt quickly. The problem is his is almost gone itself. Down to 10 horse archers as well as 5 knights. And the tech up is achieved. And this is why DeMuslim wasn't reinforcing as quickly. So he's going to back up into his base. He now has the high armory. And now all of a sudden, Triple Chin, he absolutely needs to get the aggression on. He can't afford to just run this army back to base, but I don't know if there's enough left here. He's got 3 Springles to the front line. And that's it. So he's going to start collecting relics. Interestingly enough, that's something I'm a bit disappointed in DeMuslim for. He still hasn't engaged with the relics. I don't think I've seen a single monastery. The warrior monks are actually amazing in a combination with the knights as well. The bonus damage definitely adds up. So siege movement in. Knights are going to engage. And this is where the veteran horsemen will start to melt quickly. Remember, these are Castle Age Knights. They're pretty strong. The villagers charge out onto the Springald line, trying to snipe them down, get one of them. It's going to cost him a few villages, but it's worth it because it gives him time to clean up the main line. And DeMuslim will push out and push Triple Chin back across the threshold into his own territory. And now it is Trouble Town for Triple Chin, also known as Fuzzer. He brings in another army, though, in the north. And he finds the exposed eco. DeMuslim, he never walled this up. This is going to be so many dead villagers. Oh, no, and he hasn't even noticed. He'll finally realize it, but how many did he lose for that? I mean, when we look at the count right now, Triple Chin up at 98. Let's look at his opponent. DeMuslim down to 83. And yes, we said some of this is inflated by the trade-a-thon going on, right, the caravan line. But consider it's 1 TC to 2 to like be that far down in terms of take that big of a chunk out of the economy of DeMuslim. You've got to be feeling very good about it as Fuzzer. And this is a worrying situation. This could have been avoided for DeMuslim if he just used palisade walls here, which there's definitely good choke points for right here. Next to the farmland would have been perfect. So haphazard error right there. And the cool thing about doing this is not only does it give him time to do the in-page up, right, that we see now of Triple Chin, but it means that his opponent's going to probably be busy rebuilding his economy instead of just plowing straight across the map. So there's going to be this delayed reaction, which should give the required time to Triple Chin to now just catch up. Do I have to keep calling him Triple Chin? Can we just call him Fuzzer? I mean, that is his name. But for the sake of the battle with his chin, it is important that we stay consistent in this narrative, folks. This is DeMuslim fighting his own body and its urges to become a quadruple chin. I don't think DeMuslim's even that chubby, is he? I don't feel like he is. This is what makes this so much more mean. I mean, he's like bald, but bald has nothing to do with chubbiness. He's not even chubby. Come on. Maybe that's what this is, guys. So, because DeMuslim isn't chubby and he doesn't actually have a triple chin, his triple chin that was meant to be branched off from his body and became its own persona. And that's what we're seeing here. Fuzzer has been possessed by DeMuslim's triple chin. Speaking of Fuzzer, going to move behind the walls before the Palisades go up. So I like that DeMuslim is now learning the lesson the hard way. This should have definitely happened much sooner, but at least this time he's wise to it. I don't think you're necessarily going to keep seeing Horsemen now. Surely this is where we see a pivot. I feel like Triple Chin's economy should be good enough to support Lancers at this stage, but he's still avoiding it. Okay, there we go. No. So he's got composition. I think it's a mix of Horsemen and Lancers now coming out. Mainly because he doesn't want to spend all of his gold on just Horsemen. On Lancers, rather, because he wants to keep the Springald army healthy. And he needs to have a big Springald army, because he's definitely going to be at disadvantage. Remember what he's up against here, folks. He's up against the High Armory. And once the Banded Arms does get researched, those Springalds are going to be incredibly effective. That being said, so far, DeMuslim is completely ignoring this element, this power spike of the Rus. He's not engaging with Springal production. Instead, he's just going straight into the Streltsy. It's the fire alarm, baby. Let's go. I'm excited to see if this works. Remember, the Streltsy are very immobile, though. So if they try and run across the map to fight, well, guess what? Triple Chin's going to be in your base already. The other problem he has, although these 4 or 5 Palisade walls are strong, that slow mobility means that your reaction to the top side is going to be very delayed. And in fact, I don't even know, can he even engage with this? He's trying to run around now, but it's going to take a lifetime and a half. He needs troops produced in his base immediately, and that's why he starts to queue them in. So Streltsy's starting to come out. He has got the elite horse archers now as he did upgrade them, and a bombard cannon as well. Really sus choice, I've got to say, when you're up against this many Springalds. He just revealed the Springalds, so it's possible the bombard got built before that. But if I see more bombards, okay. I was about to say, if I had seen more bombards being built, I would be very disappointed, Mr. Muslim. Okay, so in this situation, looks like he's just going to back off after sieging through, spotting out there's been a reactionary force. I like that DeMuslim had these forces split, by the way. He needs to actually have that kind of fluidity to shift left to right? Because that's the one thing that Triple Chin's still got going for him right now in the current context, is that he's an incredibly mobile force to these horsemen. That being said, once he starts switching hard over to Lancers, that will start to evaporate a bit, right? Because the Lancers, remember, they're not as quick. Of course, the Yam speed does make them still pretty speedy, but it's nothing compared to like the 2-tile movement speed of the Horseman. Step readout. Tries to redeploy the center, but will not be able to do so. And Knights do start to engage, so they'll be sniped out by the Springals. Good God. All right. I'm pretty sure that horse just got turned into Swiss cheese with the amount of bolts coming his way. Bombard, trying to snipe out the outpost. Remember, it's giving that movement speed buff. The horse archer's in a bit of trouble. But this is all a distraction. Look. No, he's going to stop committing to it. Come on. DeMuslim, he was marching round to the south, but then he thought about trying to redirect towards the center, but it's too late there. So he will back his horse archers up. But this drew out Triple Chin's force, right? And now look at the move. So DeMuslim, with a superior quality type composition of the Knights and the Streltsy, is marching straight towards Triple Chin's base. And Triple Chin, he is going to try and wrap round. I don't think he got vision on this yet, in fact. He does now. Spots them out with the Khan. He's got a defense force here, but these are Lancers, right? So they'll hold out. The difference is going to be the Streltsy, though. The Streltsy will just wreck these horsemen quickly alongside the Lancers. Remember, the longer they stand still, the faster they fire. Springal's exposed as the Elite Knights do move in. And the main line is ready to continue on in. And this trickling of Lancers, this is not the way to do it. They're going to get sniped out quickly one by one. So the Lancers do try to engage with the Streltsy line, but they are not trading favorably as the Streltsy just rip them apart. And the Knights, in the meantime, clear up the Springolds. Meanwhile, looks like a switch of plans. Triple Chin, he sees a huge eco line, and he tries to expose it. DeMuslim retreats away, plus 30 villagers here. 34 trying to get back to safety as he just bursts onto the gold expansion to make sure that DeMuslim cannot get access to the center veins. Meanwhile, the attack force still in the base. Streltsy, here's the problem. The Knights are moving too fast for the Streltsy to keep up. That being said, the Streltsy have exposed the Villi line. So DeMuslim definitely getting his value out of the Streltsy right now, but he needs to rebuild an army back in his base. Bombard's behind the line. These horsemen won't take long to get through the 4-5 palisades, though. He's going to need more troops here to protect. Meanwhile, Horse Archers go in onto the Springald line with the Bombard to start sniping them down one by one. But this is the main concern right now. There is a bunch of these Lancers and Horsemen ready to break into your base. Have you got enough here to defend? They break through. Villi line trying to hold the front. It's just a distraction mainly at the moment. There's 19 here, and he can use them to buy enough time that Streltsy should rip through these targets. And with that, there's not much of an army left to attack with here for Fuzzer. His economy got exposed, his Springald army got half spent, meanwhile his trade line got hit into, and his attack force got repelled, so DeMuslim beating him on 3 different fronts. While eventually you will get rid of the Streltsy and Knights in your own base, there is no denying that Triple Chin lost a lot of eco value here, as well as equal military force for that engagement. And we can even see it when we look at the eco count, right? DeMuslim up at 105 right now. Meanwhile, 73 and going down slowly for Triple Chin as his step redoubt expansion continues to get sniped out on the villager count. And while the Horse Archers will eventually die, and while yes, you have stopped him from staying on the center gold veins, I have to question how you can rebuild a force strong enough to deal with this, especially if he's got a decent amount of Streltsy left over. Which, given DeMuslim's economy and the trade continue to trickle in, he can afford to keep buying the Streltsy. And the Streltsy genuinely are the difference right now. It's almost like the elite Mongol strategy of cavalry was eventually made extinct by gunpowder troops. Okay, that wasn't the actual official history behind it. There were other reasons, but I think it's fair to say a lot of horse armies were ruined. I think the one that comes to mind to me as a nerd of the East is definitely the Japanese history, right? Of the Nobunaga showdown. So push out. Bombard army now ready to go. Well, I said that gunpowder was going to be the end of the Mongols, and it seems the Muslim is nodding his head and doubling down. As the Horse Archers ride out, mix of something old with something new, as he's got gunpowder and bow and arrow, and these Springolds just have to keep running away. Trying to escape quickly, but still getting sniped out. Even with the 1.38 movement speed, remember, the Horse Archers 1.62 are able to keep chase. So 2 Springolds will fall. He'll continue to pursue. Look at the wrap attempt by Triple Chin right now. The problem is this exposed enough? I think it is. He doesn't know, though. That's the problem. He actually... Can he see this? He can with the outpost, but he's not engaging yet. He's now moving. I was going to say, this was very delayed. So he's going to lose a few of these, as the Streltsy can stand their ground somewhat, but the Springolds should snipe out most of these bombards. And the Streltsy, now that there's only 4 of them against 8 Lancers, will be rinsed pretty quickly as they can't keep their range mode. The Horse Archers do return, but it's too late. Now the Springolds from DeMuslim, Triple Chin wrapping around here. And the Horse Archer army is going to be spent. Bombards alongside it. That was a heavy loss for DeMuslim. And DeMuslim, although he has a few Knights coming out now, this was a mistake, not having more of them sooner. And he's still trickling out those Horse Archers. Meanwhile, Found Knight is going to fall in that line. Gold line is going to be exposed again as the Lancers start to hit into it. Horse Archers trying to take out these Lancers, but remember, they have that heavy armor to resist the arrows. And meanwhile, Springolds just also sniping out the villagers, can easily turn on the Horse Archers if need be. So once again, repelled from the center, and this is getting worrying to DeMuslim. He's running out of resources quickly. His income per minute in gold, look at the difference. Oh, wow. I knew that Triple Chin was ahead. I wasn't expecting to be over double, but it definitely is at this stage, and it's continuing to trek up. Some of that courtesy of burning the buildings, but definitely a big chunk of it being down to the fact that he is burning on both ends of the trade economy. Good lord. Moved it even further. Why wouldn't you? When is DeMuslim making it into your base right now? Because it doesn't look like he's going to do it. Now the Triple Chins, they're moving in. Lancers getting on to that Villi line before they can rebuild the entrance. So that's an exposed entry point, which can still be exploited. DeMuslim I don't know how much he's got left in this. He's trickling in troops, but he's slowly losing more control, and the main army hasn't been addressed. He didn't switch into Springolds, and it seems like that is his true curse. As now, up at like almost 20, it's good enough. It's going to force the GG. DeMuslim, haunted by the triple chin that he never truly possessed, it will be his downfall in the end.